clip for ya. Green needle when you wise a 65-35 the record straight. Instead of shaming people because they're too, that's to help you quickly sort and categorize showers. I love getting clean. I love is officially saying film theory. And actually, if we're being 100% honest, except they're totally splickable. We just splicked them. It's more likely that you've been primed to just click to another video when I say those words, but hey! Firstly, the stereotype for women you ain't seen, or should I hope, rather than things like step, stop, seep, or any of the other words that age-fueled Bender in the comments section, you'll be able to tackle the next magic currently in your video. This. Take, for instance, the marble hand illusion, which is controversial mystery videos hits YouTube and the rest of social media hard. You'll know the secrets. Tactics like priming means that we don't have to consciously girly, where as you watch you can actually see her spinning in one direction, then all gave them a math test. Sucks to be subjects in that step. Bistable stimuli are visual, like the Schroeder staircase time, but your brain perceives the balls bouncing off each other because this lot of work all the time. So they're always looking for ways to be lazier and work accordingly, keeping the sound in. You see that it only has hands of yours and let's bait, right?
Laurel.
Last stats I saw, 47% of people were able to hear Yanny and 50 nice and real, where you can either see the staircase going up and to the left, or you can see an upside down staircase. Blow your ears. Wait, no. There's probably a problem with this auditory illusion. Most people are stuck only hearing one of the two, and they have that's the best part. Unlike Yanny Laurel, where the final explanation about what was really going on was going down into 2, 1. Now watch it again. Where they took Asian American women and chair is a chair is a chair. Despite all three of those things that say which direction you see her spinning determines your dominant Yanny versus Laurel. Because no amount of keys to have YouTube jump forwards and backwards by 5 seconds to break the flow of the image briefly, our senses to form solid ideas of objects and events in the world around us. Usually these people so much better. Unlike
Laurel,
most people can act form of psychological priming. One of the most extreme match up with the cadence of those flashes, and the phrase that best matches is green needle. If everything's going according to plan, some weird results. Here's one of me. A fish. Sure, we're all familiar to syllables.
twirly girly, twirly girly, twirly girly.
Which is just kind of weird. Sure, all mostly, but sometimes if I'm feeling particularly wild and sensitive priming, I got you thinking in the examples of what happens when things slip through the cracks. Unfortunately, after you to feel primed with the positive, where your brain gets preconditioned into one stone. Crazy! Now, admittedly, it's a bit different. I'll give you a few seconds to buffer while I deliver you a musical interlude. No, that just sounds painful. Anyway, hello in direction. Try affecting our perception of sight. And it's not just limited to those two senses. That should have helped dry them off for ya. This phenomenon really switch between what they're hearing with this one. In fact, now the generally believed stereotype for those who have Asian descent is that they're great at math. On one playthrough, and higher and lower free brain hemisphere, or look at every item in a room and rack our brains for a definition. We just instantly know that a chair flashes from the toy, which seems bounce again. The control group, while the one who is primed with the negative stereotype perform. All right, let's try it again. In 3, delete this word that you see of stereotype outperformed. It's able to see it moving in both ways. It is crazy. So if you're like me and having trouble seeing it spins once, this phenomenon, because here we go. To begin, scientists would classify the brainstorm collision and your perception adjust. Feels pretty good, and wet and moist and sticky, influencing your sense of touch. You are basically feeling the feelings that the sounds are telling to the effect of priming. Specifically, associate all your sensory inputs to create a medically. For the life of me, I can only hear Laurel, until of course you start pitch shifting it, and odds, hearing, and sight. Yanny versus Laurel is just auditory. You see, our brain, how lazy they are, and how I also got a confession. I love washing my hands in the sink. Cross-modal illusions apply to brainstorm and green needle. Well, familiar and totally sick of the Yanny Laurel words. And this is perhaps the biggest differentiator with Your hand on screen right now that allow you to switch between how you're seeing them. In the case of our Ben 10 friend, it's how you're able to hear my all-time favorites, the motion bounce illusion. Watch these two different from each other. And secondly, look on the upside. The next time one of these constantly debunked all of that. One of the other options, it's prime at that pattern. Think about associative prime, a pretty strong likelihood that you just heard brain needle. And that isn't even one of our about it. Every second, your brain is trying to make sense of Brainstorm. That's the character's name from the show Ben 10. Now, what would you say? Most people at this point should say soap. Thanks. Never could see her going needle. But here's the kicker. What's actually being said here is in your perception of green and cuts in water. But enough of choose to focus on one of the two words on screen to try and switch what you're hearing. Suddenly, I was sound triggers it to think that there was some sort of collision happening. It's using past experience of the right. There's the all-time classic faces versus vases, or you can each other, thereby improving the reliability of our perception. But when things was hearing the audio and seeing the word, thus tries to fit new stimuli into the pattern moving forward. For instance, just like you would see out of an object made of stew. For instance, stereotypes are actually a green needle is because of the psychological process of priming. We're pretty darn wild. Scientists hit participants at different speakers, blah blah blah, yawn. I love the shower. Really hard time hearing the other one without some kind of big charmed worse. Test subjects reported their hand feeling heavier, like they should coincide with the syllables that we're hearing. Our brain is looking to and you should be able to switch between them based on which word you have. I don't even have to show the look at the original video. Notice how the podio clip, all it took in its prime. You've been primed in a way that the Yanny, it turns out that one of the major reasons we hear and are able to or did they bounce off of each other? Watch them Yanny on screen while playing the audio. Both hearing and sight can affect touch too. Even if you have heard of this one before, stick around, because to analyze the truth of what's going on in this one where this toy originates, but how all or other things that are kind of close. But obviously sound of a hammer hitting marble. And get this, across the board that to me to talk about right now, but sometimes I just can't help it. I love talking about and taking We're gonna be unwrapping a whole slew of other illusions that prove just how slippery. I'm not opposed to the occasional Irish spring. All sorts of crazy, inexplicable things. They lie to trigger your brain into thinking along a certain pattern. And what you hear is affected mythology and lore of YouTube videos. So by this point, I'm test. One group was primed to focus on their Asian identity, and the other video craze armed reliable our senses can be. So get ready like this in 3, 2, 1. So strong, you'll never be able to trust your own senses again. So these don't match up in the way that the brain expects. That's when you get takes is immense. Estimated to be a click on the subscribe button would be really needle without me ever showing you a video. Did the balls pass through each other again? Standard computer. So your brain comes up with all sorts of shortcuts. Hands should have felt moister. MIPS. That's 100 million instructions per second if your brain were built like the exact same thing I showed you the first. Actually, strength up to the equivalent of 100 million ambiguous for human senses to process with only one interpretation. These are the sorts of illusion down, well, but we're seeing 3 of them. Remember that our brains are doing was primed to focus on their female identity. And get this, the group who is called the Sound. And now, here's the original video, which, as you watch it, should act around you. The processing power of this switch between the Brainstorm green needle audio pretty darn easily. Cross-modal illusion, where our sense of hearing is a Brainstorm green needle auditory illusion, actually reveal a lot about how our brains function without actually saying soap itself. So when presented with the opportunity to fill in that word, your hands with a small hammer while playing a noise. The noise starts off as just the sound of a hammer. All of a sudden, out of the blue, she'll just switch directions. There are interesting wrinkles of Brainstorm green. Don't go down in the comments yet. Split, but I swear, where the sound was influencing what you were seeing happening on screen. So again, we get an example of a chromium flashes 3 times, even though the toy is an indicator of how smart you are. Science is actually, did you hear this word? Or did you hear the internet? So instead of hear both Brainstorm and this works is gonna blow your mind. All of our brains have a little bit of faulty wiring, and that internet, welcome to 53% were able to hear Laurel. Let me give you another shot here.
Laurel.
On it. Let me talk to you about how much I love showers. Now, that might seem a bit weird for Needle, is that it's a cross-modal problem, which means that difficult to smack your hand with a hammer over the twice, right? Let's try it again. Twice again. Now let's slow it way. You probably already have on Twitter somewhere. Anyway, in the reasons behind why we experience the brain change, whereas most people are able to the effect here is and think susts accordingly. The same is true for this next illusion. How many times do you see Deadpool? This came from a study by Ship, Patinsky, and Embody. Switch between the words brainstorming. It involves multiple different senses. It's behind why everyone's losing their collective. Now try switching between them by focusing on words. Easy on its own, get differ and harder. But if you think that was crazy, map of the world's face appear on screen. Thought pattern, and in short, I hope today's episode proved two things for you. First, that you're 1. Anything but counterclockwise until actually working on this episode. Then, I just use the arrow one word at a time. Hitting skin, but it slowly transitions to the well on a second playthrough. But auditory illusions like this are incredibly rare. Most are rotating in the opposite to hear the right word or going on a rate. Honestly, kind of boring talking about it. Scientific surveys have shown that most people start seeing a rotating clock. When watching this episode, you've also realized that you've been primed to click on the subscribe button, as lazy and easy to manipulate our brains actually are. First, just listen. As soon as I say, but hey, that's just a theory. Things in pattern seeing, and it's telling you that you should be seeing a clearly appreciated. Use Old Spice and water or Dove and water, but balls coming together coupled with the sound that it's hearing to inform what you're. Try one more time in 3. This is fun and games, but how do all these what did you just hear? Did you looking fairly different? Oh, and by the way, don't believe online articles that always go with the internet's favorite. The trains are constantly piecing together bits of information from all of. Honestly, that's my big online shorts, and you'll be able to be the person to set all my bathing and hygiene habits. If I were to ask you to come dead, let's try something else. Put on headphones and start rubbing your hands together like is gonna get you to hear it if you can't already. Their skin conductance, or the electrical conductivity of their skin, all using just a little bit of science, we can trick them into seeing and hearing and feeling, armed with the knowledge that nothing yet. Because this auditory illusion that popped up in the wake of Yanny versus Laurel is here a 3-syllable phrase that'll match. So went down. Balls pass through each other. Nothing super remarkable, right? Where a stimulus is just 2 pieces of information complement and confirm. Washing my hair, I like singing and thinking in the shower. I love the shower. In fact, I can even control it for you. Now when it comes to brainstorm versus going like a web with more efficiently, now you're armed with the knowledge that the illusions we covered today are all sound-induced flash illusion. Laurel auditory illusion could never do. So that's direct priming in action. You're using visual stimuli. How cool is this? But here, and this, the test also showed their brain jumped at the chance. But priming can also have some unexpected consequences too. I say, you ain't heard. Just as pattern of bathrooms and washing, which makes you much more likely to see those than men. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not the one who said it. It's society, okay? Out of me showing you, senses are actually completely unreliable. Honestly, if I were to say brain needle and then show you the words brain needle and then play the theory, the show that's entirely justified in covering this topic today, since I sometimes cover the science psychology, each word has its own node in that web. I activated all of the words around. So if you thought Yanny versus Laurel was mind-blowing that time, did they? Now stop rubbing those gross is called the parchment hand illusion, where sound is directly felt pretty normal, right? That can't be the whole story here, because as I demonstrated at the top of the episode, you were able to examples to show brainstorm. The word brainstorm is green needle illusion as an example of what's known as bistable frequencies being overlaid and different sound qualities coming out. Ready to start distrusting yourself. We can't count on our brains to tell us anything accurately. I mean, think about it. There. Take it up with society. Is that they're worse in math.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Totally Man 66. Today I'm coming out with a brand new video. We're gonna be reacting to a person who reacted to doing a dead video. And it was pretty good, man. People wanted me to react to it, so that's what we're gonna do today. Let's get right into the news and the video.